Welcome to the Delight Your Marriage podcast, the show where you hear from amazing and inspiring wives sharing their struggles, triumphs, and advice for this journey called marriage. Here's your host, Bella Rose.
Hey there, and welcome to the show. I am Bella Rose, and I'm really honored that you spent the time to listen to me today on the podcast. So essentially, what I want to talk about today is money versus marriage. Now, this is not an easy topic to talk about in this day and age because as a society, money trumps all other goods. I mean, the whole idea of the quote American dream is to, go from rags to riches, isn't it? But is that biblical? Is that a biblical notion? I mean, my husband and I have actually taught and facilitated financial stewardship courses, and we ourselves are very budget oriented and very frugal. So much in our life is very creative to save money. But at the same time, what we do not skimp on is what we believe are most priority in our lives. And one of those things is tithing, which we believe is God's order of things, that's first and foremost where we put our money is 10% to our spiritual community. And secondly is wisdom. So after that, that our money is really in service to our values. And so when I talk to women on this podcast, and in my coaching and, all of the different speaking engagements, what I do is say that, your priorities should be this way. First, God, then loving his people. And your first priority is your husband. Second is your kids. And then comes the rest of your ministry, whatever that looks like for you. And then after that comes your work. Or your career, the way you make money, should be after those things. And your finances should align in pursuing wisdom to support all of that, that your income should be supporting those values. If you've listened to the podcast before, at the very end, I have my announcer encourage you to live with wisdom, love, and passion. And the reason I say that is because those are the three words that I essentially would hope that I have lived out in this life, that kind of anchor me when I think about my funeral or what will be put on my tombstone. That's truly what I hope will just be written there, and that's what I endeavor. It's also something I've painted in big letters in my house. So I just keep that at the forefront of my mind. And it's been something that I've sought after for years because wisdom is truly what God wants us to be pursuing, right? If you just, do a really quick, open to any page in Proverbs, you'll see the value of wisdom. And Solomon was the wisest man that ever lived. And so when he talks about pursue wisdom, pursue knowledge, he even says buy it, purchase wisdom, purchase knowledge, purchase instruction. He talks about wisdom being more valuable than gold and silver. And he even says nothing you can desire compares with her. I mean, you would think I don't know what he could be describing other than God, but he's talking about wisdom, of how important wisdom is. And so, Proverbs is actually my favorite chapter because I feel as though, if we can get a handle on wisdom, my goodness, we can avoid so much suffering and we can help so many more people with that wisdom. And so, if you're a listener of this podcast, and by God's grace, this podcast was awarded one of the top 30 relationship podcasts on the whole internet, which is incredible and an honor. And I'm very humbled and encouraged by that. But it also means that people are hungry for truth and honesty and wisdom in their marriage. And, so what I want to do is help you, to encourage you to say yes. Absolutely align your value system with wisdom. And so, one thing that I realized recently is, I do these free clarity calls, and I've been only doing them recently because I have some limited time in my schedule to do them, but what they give me the opportunity to do is to dive deep with a wife into what's going on, and we go deep quick. And so I ask uncomfortable questions, and I ask the questions that you need to see what's really going on, and some of the causes for what, to really unearth the causes of what's going on. And then I describe if I feel like we're the right fit, if I feel like your situation is appropriate, and if I feel like you are ready, and specifically that you are decisive, that you're committed, that you're coachable, and that you're resourceful. I may invite you to work with me in my program, The Delighted Wife. Reclaim your sexuality, live in your womanly wisdom, witness him transform into the husband you've always desired him to be. So this is my proven system that actually takes a wife by the hand, and I coach her one-on-one, and we go through the modules. It's a 90-day program, and we work through at your pace, and I walk you through this process to end up getting you at your goals, where you want to go. But like I said, we have to figure out where you are now. We have to dive deep in those calls to determine, is this something that's going to help you? And now, when I say that last one is resourcefulness, that is key, because I cannot help a wife who does not value wisdom. If she does not place a high value on her priorities in life, well, then I can't help her. My husband and I don't skimp on wisdom. We recognize that though we can get clothes from other people, and we rarely buy clothes. I don't remember the last time. I think I actually do remember the last time I bought clothes for my sons, and it was because someone gave us a gift card. But people just give us clothes because we are in a community of people running through clothes with their kids, and so they just are like, oh, okay, we'll give it to their family, and we accept it with gratefulness and move forward. And that's the way we live with so much. So many of our choices in life have been around saving and being creative and, renting out a room so that we don't have to pay a full rent, of New York City. And, most of our furniture has been for free, someone giving it away. My husband scours Craigslist, the free section, and, gets different things for our kids to play with, or, we get little projects for them to take apart. I found a toaster on the side of the road yesterday. I brought it in, and we're going to use tools and screwdrivers to undo that. And that's going to be a whole project. So you can be creative with your finances. You don't have to go buy them a Game Boy to keep them occupied. Absolutely not. And that's the way we live. We live outside of the box with our finances so that we can value what's most important in our lives. And one of those things is wisdom. My degree in school was philosophy. There was no practicality for philosophy. Who pays someone to think? Except that is exactly what everyone is paid for, is their thoughts. And especially now that things are becoming more automated, I don't know if this is a little sidetracked commentary, but I don't know if you're familiar with some of TED Talks. I love TED Talks, but they talk a lot about, AI, artificial intelligence, and the top 10 qualities that they see in the future that people need to really be developing, so that they have jobs, is number one, or I don't remember the order of these, but one of the top 10 is creativity. Another one is problem solving. Another one is interpersonal skills. And another one is leadership, people management, leadership. And so anyway, it's just interesting to think about, the real values, even in, the looking forward to the future, actually is wisdom, developing skills, developing these wise skills rather than, technical skills necessarily. Certainly there's places for that, and, there's great stuff there. But the point is, wisdom is valuable even outside of Christian circles. But let me dial it back in terms of what matters in your life and what you should be purchasing. Again, one of our bigger expenses are books. I purchase books for my own development, audiobooks a lot of times, and then courses, programs that are actually going to move the needle on me up-leveling different parts of my life, different businesses, up-leveling my business and up-leveling my fitness, my ability to be healthy, paying professionals to help me emotionally. Like, there's just these elements of wisdom that are so vital to our lives, but if we don't value them, our finances reflect what we value. And when you look at finances, it's more than just money. What finances actually are is your life. It's your life energy, because whatever you do to create money, that's what money is representing. So let's say you spend, 8 hours a day doing whatever career, job, position you have to make that money. So the way you spend it is actually what you're spending your time doing, you're spending on that thing. So if you spend, 8 hours and then you purchase a vehicle, that equals what you make in, 4 months or 6 months or a year. I don't know, I don't know all those numbers or, anyway, if you buy, that, what you're saying is that your life for a year of 8-hour days is, that value of that life equals a car. So you're trading your life of a year for a car. Does that make sense? And so what I don't want you to mistake is that when you buy something, you are trading that time for that item you just purchased. So with that in mind, I suggest and encourage and submit to you, please use your time, use your life, use your money, which is your life, use it in a way that is aligned with your values. Do not waste it, because you and I both know that if you do not use your money for wisdom, for getting wisdom, for doing God's will in this earth, then you will use it another way. You will use it one way or another, whether it's on a vacation for, 2 weeks of bliss, or whether it's on getting your life on track, getting your marriage on track, getting the pornography addiction dealt with, getting the marriage on track, getting your ability to connect as a couple, getting your peace in your marriage, getting your sex life consistent and free and enjoying and pleasure, getting that connection cemented together, or a 2-week vacation. Like, what? How in the world could you say that those are equal? Because one is an investment for decades and decades and decades of your life. And one is a respite of 2 weeks of hanging out at the beach. Like, what is that going to even matter in 6 months? What is that going to matter in a year? What's that going to matter in 10 years? Whereas when you invest in wisdom, that will affect you forever. And let me just read a couple of scriptures that just are so clear that God is saying, my goodness, the enemy wants to lie to you and distract you and tell you that money, the only purpose of an investment is to make more money, but that's not true. That's not true. Let me tell you a few verses that are just so powerful and let me just say, okay, Proverbs 23:23. It says, "Purchase truth and do not sell it. Purchase wisdom, instruction, and understanding." Proverbs 24:13. "My son, eat honey, for it is good, and the drippings of the honeycomb are sweet to your taste. Know that wisdom is such to your soul. If you find it, there will be a future, and your hope will not be cut off." Proverbs 3:13. "Blessed is the one who finds wisdom, and the one who gets understanding, for the gain from her is better than the gain from silver, and her profit is better than gold. She is more precious than jewels, and nothing you desire can compare with her." And then Proverbs 8:10. "Take my instruction instead of silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is better than jewels, and all that you may desire cannot compare with her." All that you may desire doesn't compare with wisdom. And then Proverbs 8:12. It says, "I, wisdom, love those who love me, and riches and honor are with me, enduring wealth and righteousness." So it's even saying when you purchase wisdom, when you go with wisdom, money's going to follow you, which is amazing. And it's true, isn't it? Proverbs 16:16, "How much better to get wisdom than gold. To get understanding is to be chosen rather than silver." Rather than silver. How much better is it to get wisdom than gold? Isn't that interesting? You know, Solomon was asked by God, "What do you want? I'll give it to you." And Solomon asked for wisdom. That's what he asked for, was wisdom. Solomon could have asked for anything. But you know what's awesome is even after he got all this incredible wisdom, the wisest man that ever lived aside from Jesus, then he was also incredibly wealthy, and people came from all over the world to listen to him. He was incredibly wealthy even as a result. But the thing is, you have to buy and invest in wisdom first. Otherwise, the rest isn't going to follow you. See, one of the reasons I do these clarity calls is because I need to help women get clear on what's going on. You see, Proverbs 27:12 says, "The prudent sees danger and hides himself, but the simple go on and suffer for it." I have been doing this work for too long. I have seen too many marriages demise because of their short-sightedness, their inability to see the danger. But I myself have been there. I myself have endured a destruction called divorce. And it is the worst financial calamity that can happen to a person. So let's just think about that for a second. The concern of divorce, solely financially speaking, that means you are sacrificing the entire income that person was bringing in. So let's lowball it and say they were bringing in, after taxes, $30,000 a year. Let's multiply that by 10 years. 30 years. That's $900,000 of money just gone. $1 million at least, if that's what you're earning after taxes, right? Much less, let's think about all the bills now that are on your shoulders all by yourself. So that's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars over years that you now have to endure yourself. Furthermore, now you might have to go to work or get a second job to make sure you can make ends meet. And not only that, every expense for the kids, you probably have to shoulder all on your own. So that's food, that's diapers, that's field trips, that's car payments, that's gasoline, that's every bill that you have, electrical, internet, whatever bill you currently have, now you're doing it all on your own. And what you could have done previously is, maybe if you had stayed in the marriage and it had become healthy, you could have taken on a second job anyway if you wanted to, or started your own business or whatever, and then all that income would be additional. So you're actually losing income, that potential income there. Now, much less, divorce requires lawyers, and lawyers are expensive. They bill by the hour, and it is not cheap. And then you've got to deal with custody battles. You've got to deal with courts and the systems there. You've got to have all that time and attention, and that takes the focus off of your own career and your own time. And there's a ton of stress and effort that way. And so you might end up needing to go, you won't be able to advance in your career as far or as fast because now you're so emotionally and time effort into your, getting a divorce. It's so intensive time and focus and energy and emotion and effort. And so these are just some of the, let me also say that dividing assets is a huge issue because you've got to divide it quickly. So that means that they've got to sell the house quickly. They've got to sell the cars quickly. All the different, things that you guys have together, you've got to, sell it immediately. Otherwise, you're just hanging in the balance of getting a divorce. And so a lot of times people lose a lot of money just by not getting what they should have gotten under market value for their house. So they lose a lot of money in this whole situation. Tons and tons and tons. So these are sometimes $1 million decisions or more, millions of dollars, depending on, how much money you're earning, how much you could be earning, how much, your things cost, whatever. That is what you're dealing with when you're even flirting with the idea of divorce. And so think about the difference between that and an investment to save your marriage, an investment in wisdom. I mean, I'm serious when I'm talking about this. I know what I'm talking about. I've witnessed too many divorces. They come to me way farther down the line than they should have. Had they only come to me when they were suffering and they knew something was up, they knew that they were numbing because they wanted to be distracted, that they knew they were only having sex once a month, but assumed there was nothing wrong, or that they didn't want to face it head on, and they knew that their sex life wasn't what it should be, but they thought maybe their husband would just deal with it, and it wasn't that great, but she didn't want to try any harder, and they knew that they weren't emotionally connected, but probably that's going to be okay, and she can just get her emotional fulfillment from the kids, but he's probably going to be okay to deal with his life lonely and his loneliness, or she's going to deal with his sin, what he did in the past, and she's not going to actually head on heal and get rid of that hurt so that she can really walk in God's fullness now. Because what happens is, if you let that stuff fester, under the Band-Aid, if there's a stab wound, that's going to kill you. That is going to kill your marriage. You need to uncover that Band-Aid. You need to look at it hard, and you need to get that thing fixed. And that's what my clarity calls are all about. They're all about honesty in love, but helping you to see and uncover what is underneath that Band-Aid. What are you numbing yourself against? What are you distracting yourself away from? Seeing what potential harm, what is the danger that you are flirting with? And then I'll talk to you about my program if it's the right fit with you. For you, I do not invite everyone into my program because it's not for them. They might not be decisive, committed, coachable, and resourceful. They might not be there, or I might not be the right coach for them. I might not have the specialties that they need. And sometimes I do that. I just give them a little free coaching and say, here's your next steps, and it's not going to be with me. But those that I specifically have the opportunity to then say, yeah, this is the right person. I can see that they are committed. I can see that this program is exactly what they need. And if it seems like the right fit, I might invite them in. Because I truly believe that if I don't help them see the danger, they may just move forward just how they're doing and suffer for it. And again, I only outlined the financial piece. It's one of those things of, there's this great quote. It says, suffer the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And so if you discipline yourself now to get on a call with me, to say, you know what, I'm going to be brave. I'm going to take that step. I'm going to let an expert be honest with me in my situation. I'm going to be honest with her and tell her what's going on. And I'm going to let an expert assess, see what's going on. And we talk through it together and see if there's work that I need to do, if there's action I need to take, if I need to say, okay, I'm done with the status quo. I see what's really going on. I see the stab wound, and it's time to heal it. It's time to get this thing back on course so I can do God's will in this earth. Because I encourage you to think very carefully about what's going to be on your tombstone. What is going to matter at the end? You either suffer the discipline, you suffer discipline now, or you suffer the pain of regret. You suffer the pain of discipline, or you suffer the pain of regret. I want you to suffer the pain of discipline now. It's so much easier. It's discipline, but it's easier. Oh my gosh, it's so much easier. And I haven't even talked about the emotional baggage and pain and suffering that I see so many women go through. It's so horrible. I can only imagine what happens in heaven when they what I see now, I don't know what, it's just so important. I don't want you to be distracted and suffering when you don't have to be. Wisdom is crying out in the streets. Oh, simple ones, how long will you love simplicity? That's what it says in Proverbs. Don't love simplicity. Move into God's will for your life. I entreat you to make changes. Do not listen and say, okay, I've consumed that podcast. I've listened to that episode. I'm done with that. I talk to too many women that have listened to me for years. And it's like they never heard a single word I said. And I'm just like, what? What? By God's grace, I've also, heard other stories that people have completely transformed. But if you are at a spot where you are not in the place in your marriage that you should be, you need wisdom. Wisdom and knowledge and instruction. Do not skimp on those things. Skimp? I think that's the word, skimp. Do not be cheap on those things. Tighten your budget, tighten your belt. Don't go out to eat. Don't have a vacation for the next 2 years. Get wisdom. I don't even know the last time our family had a vacation. I do, actually. We did have a vacation last year. Typically, we don't have vacations because we do rest days every week, and I don't actually feel like we need vacations very often. But we will. I mean, God willing, here and there we will have them. But it's not something we're valuing to spend our money on things that are not most important. Make sure you've got your priorities straight. Don't take a vacation if your marriage is a mess. Get that sorted first. Don't buy a new car if your marriage is a mess. Get that sorted out first. Refinance your house or, do something with your mortgage. I don't know how that works. I don't have a house. Why are you trying to do investments before your marriage is solid? That is your first priority after God, is your marriage. And that is going to support your kids, your family. If there's not safety and peace and generosity and love in your household, it affects your kids whether you think it does or not. It is dramatically affecting them and their spirituality. Yes, it does. Get your priorities straight. Suffer the pain of discipline or suffer the pain of regret. So I hope that you will make the choice to uncover that Band-Aid and look at what you're trying to numb against, what you're trying to distract yourself against, because it may be eroding the very things that you actually want. You actually want to get home to Jesus, and you want to hear your master say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." But if you are distracted away from that reality, it's really, really going to be painful. I was reading in Matthew, and, there are some serious things that Jesus talks about. He's a God of love, but he's also a God of significant warning. I was reading about the parable of the 10 virgins, and I'll just read to you really quick. It says, "Then the kingdom of heaven will be," so it's Matthew 25, "the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise." Wow, I didn't even realize 5 of them were wise. "For when the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them. But the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. As the bridegroom was delayed, they all became drowsy and slept. But at midnight there was a cry, 'Here is the bridegroom, come out to meet him.' Then all those virgins rose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, 'Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out.' But the wise answered, saying, 'Since there will be not enough for us and for you, go rather to the dealers and buy for yourselves.' And while they were going to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was shut. Afterward, the other virgins came also, saying, 'Lord, Lord, open to us.' But he answered, 'Truly, I say to you, I do not know you. Watch, therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour.'" So it's pretty powerful to think that the wise virgins were ready. Why does that matter to your marriage? Because if your spirituality consists on you praying for your husband to be the spiritual leader of your household, and your spirituality consists of you just trying to keep yourself from not cursing at your husband or yelling at him, I want to say that you're distracted. You need more in your life than just that. God is calling you higher than a fixation on your marriage. But if you don't get your marriage straightened out, if you don't get the wisdom, the applied knowledge that you actually have a different marriage, then you will not be able to focus on all that God wants you to do and be about. It's going to affect your kids. It's going to affect you doing God's will. It's going to affect your prayer life. It's going to affect your ability to consistently meet with God. It's going to affect your focus at church. It's going to affect your focus at work. It's going to affect, again, I mentioned over and over and over again about your finances. Get your marriage figured out. Be wise. Live your life in priorities. Get God first in your life. Don't let the horrors or the pain, the suffering, the loneliness of your marriage crowd out your relationship with God. So that might be, getting that out of the way might be the first step in realigning your life with God. Because too often people are so deeply in pain in their marriage that they cannot connect with God because they are in so much pain and so much heartache. That's what I want for you. I want you to choose wisdom, to have your values in wisdom, in buying wisdom and valuing it over gold and silver. And I help women. I have a proven process where women transform their lives. I've even had, let me give you a quick example. As a wife came to me, she was homeschooler, so she had several kids, 5 or 6 or 7, lots of kids. She and her husband were just having the most difficult time. He had a part-time job and wasn't able to, it wasn't making ends meet, but she really felt discouraged by him not really trying to get another job. And it just seemed like he was, lazy, and he wasn't helping around, and he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. And he felt like she didn't care about sex, and he felt like she didn't even care about him, and she was always scolding him and criticizing him. And it was only after 4 sessions that he emailed me and he said, I don't know what you guys talked about. I don't know what was said, but I don't even know if my wife is doing everything you told her. I haven't asked. But I tell you what, my wife is a different woman. I have never seen her change so fast in over 20 years of marriage. And he was like, it's like she's behaving like the woman I married. In fact, like the woman I wish I had married. So I'm just like, praise God. Transformation can happen quickly with wisdom. With wisdom, you can go your whole life with all the free information in the world. Again, people listen to my podcast constantly, all over the world by God's grace. But until they get that tailored insight, the accountability, the help, they could be really missing what they need. They could be really missing the amazing transformation they need. And that's what God does through my work with them. Again, my program, The Delighted Wife. Reclaim your sexuality. Live in your womanly wisdom and witness him transform into who you've always wanted him to be. Let me give you another story. I've recently worked with a wife who really didn't enjoy sex at all, and just really felt like it was a chore. And by God's grace, in just the short amount of time she and I worked together, suddenly she's having brand new sensations in her resa, where she is feeling more excited to have intimacy with him, where she is looking forward to it, where she sees sex differently than she ever did before. And she's a dedicated listener. So that's very cool. I'll give you another one where, a wife and her husband felt so distant, and they're Bible-believing Christians. They've got amazing ministries in the church, and they've got kids, and they're, really, really struggling with peace in their household, and just constantly at each other's necks, at each other's throats, because there's an addiction involved, and there's just different. But in our work together, what she has done is transform the way that she sees herself, and the way that she protects her heart, and the way that she acts towards him. And that has transformed the way he is towards her. So it's very interesting, and amazing what God has done. And I'll tell you, I actually have just started working with someone who I'm so grateful that she has started working with me. But I'll tell you, after our first session, I was having trouble reading her face, and I asked her how she's feeling. And she said, "Oh my gosh, that was amazing. This is the real deal. I have never gone so far in such a short amount of time than in this session. This is not fluff." And I was like, awesome, praise God. Tell your husband. But yeah, that's what we do. We go far, we go deep. I'm not willing to let you go to danger go to the hell that I went through in my divorce. I don't want that for you. I do not let you go there. I do not let you go there. So get on that clarity call with me. I'm going to treat you just like a coaching client. I am going to help you uncover that Band-Aid, and we are going to look honestly together at what is underneath. We're going to go deep, and we're going to go in fast. And that's going to be a 40-minute conversation, maybe more. And we're going to, really focus on how to get you to the next step and what it would look like if you worked with me, and if that's the right next step for you. If not, you're going to have a phenomenal time, a ton of value, a ton of clarity. And it's totally worth you being brave and signing up as soon as you can. www.dym.as.me. And I think I have a couple of openings that I was able to shift my schedule around this week, if you can jump in there really quickly. Otherwise, I think maybe in 2 more weeks, I have some more openings. But get on my calendar as soon as you can, because it fills up pretty quickly. So very quickly. All right. God bless. And I really hope that you'll spend some time in Proverbs this week and really value wisdom. Do not value your other things more importantly than wisdom, because again, anything that you can desire does not compare with her. That's what God says. It's right there. All right. God bless you. I look forward to speaking with you soon. Mwah.
Thanks for listening. If you've been blessed by this, why not share it? Until next time, live with love, wisdom, and passion.